This message wasn't discovered by chance. The Most High has summoned you to this location at this precise hour and moment. This is not just a coincidence. The timing is divine. For weeks, the signs have been building in your area. What was previously hidden in silence is now coming to light. A man is close to your life. He has moved through a crowd of people with a calm demeanor, saying polite phrases and following his usual routine. However, the storm is building within him, beneath the surface, where the eye cannot see. The truth is in a tremor. What has been hidden will soon be exposed. Earthly consequences will occur in ways that are beyond the control of any individual. Furthermore, the consequences of this moment will be beyond your comprehension. This message, as written, expresses readiness rather than apprehension. There is nothing concealed that will not be revealed, and nothing concealed that will not be discovered and disclosed. Isol. Heaven's chosen ones are never allowed to see the truth fall without prior notice. Be aware if you've felt a sense of unease or tension in your spirit that you couldn't identify. The Holy Spirit whispered to your soul. You couldn't explain your unease, the repetition of events, or the sleepless nights. These were not the results of your imagination. This was spiritual discernment. The fire that lives within you is genuine. Currently, the voice of heaven is communicating with us, urging us to stay alert, attentive, and prepared. This upcoming event will have far-reaching consequences for many people's lives. You have been chosen to observe, comprehend, and act with clarity rather than confusion. I encourage you to express your readiness as you progress toward this sacred awareness. To demonstrate your comprehension and attentiveness, please type Amen in the comments section below. Please be advised that the message has been received, and you are now walking in a state of light rather than fear. Additionally, stick to this message until the end. We will conclude with a prayer that will grant you divine peace, discernment, and wisdom. Why? Because this isn't just a video. This is a divine interruption. A man's journey has concluded. Heaven has observed the actions that occurred in the absence of light. His heart was far from truth as he spoke in silence and smiled in front of others, despite his outward appearance of stability. He has lived in a state of contradiction, expressing one view to humanity and another to the heavens. However, the Lord has seen and heard everything. His gaze remains unwavering. The spiritual alarm was not unjustified. The weight on your mind, the tightness in your chest, the stirring in your soul. These were all indicators. The trumpet has sounded in the heavens, and the moment has arrived. This person isn't who he claims to be. Pretending has ended. Similarly, the prophet Samuel was sent to confront Saul not out of rage, but because disobedience had reached a climax. Consequently, God's messengers have been dispatched to reveal what can no longer be concealed. This person has been in close contact with you, possibly as a confidant, a leader, or even someone who once claimed to love you. However, his actions have narrated a story of deception. Peace. The weight of divine truth is pressing against his mask, causing it to crack, not human hands. Justice will not be served abruptly. It is now readily apparent. Truth has already been determined in the unseen realm, and the natural world is now revealing the decisions made in silence. However, the courts of heaven have already documented the outcome, even if he appears to be walking freely in the eyes of others. Don't be fooled by the text. It is impossible to ridicule God. A man reaps what he sows, states Galatians chapter 6, verses 6 to 7. You may be curious as to why someone of this nature was allowed to be so close. What was the reason behind the Most High's delay in removing him? However, Job, who was both righteous and faithful, was tested without understanding the reason. Until recently, this man's presence was associated with life delays, silent battles, and strange endings. His energy was a source of drain. His concealed existence was an impediment. He wasn't just close to your journey, he was blocking it. And now the Holy One is removing him, not to destroy a man, but to protect a purpose. It is critical that you understand this. The path ahead of you is holy, and holiness and corruption cannot coexist. Clarity, peace, and truth are essential for the next season that God has planned for you. As a result, He is removing the curtain. He is revealing information that you are not permitted to keep. Even though you were unaware of the full extent of the danger, His mercy kept you safe, and His love is now revealing the reason. You didn't fail. You weren't naive. You simply put your faith in the event prior to its scheduled unveiling. However, that moment has arrived. The chains that were hidden from your view are being severed. The burden you carried without explanation is being lifted, and the confusion is being cleared. This is more than just a warning. It's a moment of liberation. It is possible that you do not yet fully understand all of the details. However, the patterns will become clear. The purpose of your previous decisions will be revealed, and when others ask how you anticipated them, you will remember that they were not based on instinct. There were no suspicions. It was God, the one who never fails to protect His own. Allow your spirit to regain peace. I urge you to let go of the weight. The truth is no longer hidden. Angels are stationed throughout your life, silent, vigilant, and unwavering. They have yet to leave their position. They have encircled your home like a fortress, shielded your mind, and watched over your heart while you were unaware of the danger. Even as you questioned whether anyone was aware of your pain, heaven was aware of everything. No, you were not overlooked. You have been concealed for your own safety. There were nights when you wept yourself to sleep, and days when your fortitude felt like sand slipping through your fingers. You believed you were collapsing, but you were actually being reconstructed. So, what appeared to be abandonment was in fact a process of repositioning. You were being moved somewhere safe. You were being prepared for the exact thing that heaven is now releasing. Yes, the exposure. The revelation of the truth is only the beginning. You were never meant to be destroyed by the information being disclosed. It was meant to liberate you. The person who previously obscured your path and drained energy from your life while wearing the mask of compassion is now being removed. His removal has more than just earthly consequences. It's a spiritual awakening. What was previously entangled will now become untangled. Progress that had previously been postponed will now accelerate. The prophet Isaiah once said, "Behold, I am doing a new thing." That new thing is now emerging. Is this not clear to you? The text is Isaiah chapter 43, verse 19. The beginning of a divine reordering used to feel like the end. The sudden shift in the atmosphere, the tension, the resurfacing of memories, and the unexpected appearance of people. This was not an arbitrary decision. This is a real-time spiritual transition. There may be situations in the future that are unfamiliar or even oppressive. You may be tempted to revisit old emotions, messages, or photos that are no longer useful to your future. However, the past should be left to God. What is being cleared is making way for what is sacred. You were never just an observer in this story. You were the catalyst for heaven's intervention. The enemy was unable to contact you, not because of your strength, but because you were chosen. The removal of this individual is motivated by more than just the pursuit of justice. It refers to the concept of space. There is enough room for your next chapter. A space for peace, joy, alignment, and healing that is not about performance. Furthermore, for some people, there is room for the right kind of affection. One that reflects God's character, rather than one that causes confusion. In the coming days, you may be required to remain silent, listen, refrain from reacting, and have faith that what was previously unknown is now becoming clear. Please know that the Lord will defend you. You are only required to be silent, as stated in Exodus chapter 14, verse 14. You'll notice what has changed in the absence of motion. You will be aware of the weight lifted and feel a sense of clarity in the air. This isn't the conclusion. Before the promise, this is the clearing. Heaven is not merely providing protection at this time. It is widening the path for your subsequent ascent. Listen carefully, because this is not just about gaining divine insight. It pertains to the manner in which you transport it. Frustration is the result of revelation that does not lead to action, and heaven did not reveal the truth solely to elicit your emotions. In order to prepare you for the forthcoming events, heaven disclosed this truth. Clarity has been placed in your hands. In a world full of illusions, half-truths, and noise, that is a rare and sacred commodity. The clearness that God provides is a signal. You are no longer blind. You are being requested to behave in a manner that is indicative of an individual who recognizes the sanctity of the path, regardless of the difficulty. Commence with your words during periods of spiritual awakening. Emptiness is not the same as silence. It is obedience. The act of refraining from speaking until the Spirit permits you to do so possesses a sacred power. Look at Mary, the mother of Jesus, following the angel. She was visited by Gabriel, who delivered an absurd prophecy. It is stated in the Bible that she cherished all of these things and contemplated them in her heart. Luke chapter 2, verse 19. She refrained from pursuing an explanation. She refrained from making any declarations or arguing. She merely maintained the phrase. Presently, you are being required to assume that posture. Speak when you are inspired by tranquility, rather than by external pressure. Allow truth to execute its customary course of action. Ignoring your defense, it ascends. Then, quietly evaluate your surroundings. There are individuals who experience a sense of familiarity but are no longer in agreement. Certain relationships are not malicious. Rather, they have expired. In the same way as Jonah on the ship to Tarsus, their presence in your boat may be the primary reason the storm has not abated. Jonah was instructed by God to proceed in a specific direction. He selected an alternative. Not due to their own disobedience, but rather due to the individuals who were passengers on that vessel. All other individuals endured hardship. The waves did not cease until they released Jonah. Jonah, chapter 1, verse 15. Peace may not always be attained through prayer. It originates from the act of releasing. Subsequently, tend to your surroundings in a spiritual as well as physical manner. Eliminate the objects that continue to pull you backward. This could include messages, objects, playlists, gifts, clothes, or any other item that evokes feelings of confusion, heartbreak, or compromise. You are not required to destroy these items in anger or make a statement. Performance is overshadowed by quiet obedience. You are not belittling your past. You are indicating that you are prepared for the future. Just as God instructed Israel prior to their arrival in the Promised Land, consecrate yourselves, for the Lord will perform extraordinary feats among you tomorrow. Joshua chapters 3 through 5. Holy movement is encouraged by a clean environment. In this hour, your concealed weapon is tranquility. You are being instructed to listen to God in the whisper, rather than solely in the fire or the earthquake. Remember Elijah, who fled to the cave in search of direction and feared for his life. The Lord was not present in the wind, the earthquake, or the fire. However, a still, small voice, 1 Kings chapter 19, verse 12, then emerged, and that whisper contained the directive that altered everything. In the tranquility of your mind, ask God, "What are you revealing to me today?" And have faith that the solution may occasionally manifest in the form of peace or a discomfort that is unwilling to be disregarded. Your body, beloved by God, serves as a messenger. The fatigue you are experiencing is not indicative of weakness. It is the residue of having transported something that was never intended to remain. For an extended period of time, your shoulders have carried emotional burdens beyond their capacity. Heaven is not beckoning to you because you are lazy and need to rest. It invites you to participate in the restoration process. Consume water not only to stay hydrated, but also to demonstrate stewardship over the vessel that God has given you. Step outside and let the sun illuminate your skin, reminding you that the sun rises without effort. According to Psalm 23, He gives me rest in verdant pastures. He guides me through peaceful waters. He revives my spirit. This is the restoration. Now listen to this quietly but clearly. You are not responsible for everyone's salvation. It is impossible to avoid the consequences of another person's actions, nor can one obstruct the lessons that God wishes to teach an individual. Even Jesus, who possessed all power, was unable to stop Judas from leaving. He felt affection for him. He referred to him as a friend, but he eventually let him leave. Codependency is the result of unrestricted compassion. Stepping back does not imply a retreat. You are following the order of heaven. Begin writing with purpose rather than obsession. Keep a record of the observations you make. The sudden clarity in previously misunderstood conversations, confirmations, and shifts in atmosphere. These notes aren't just reminders. Anchors are exactly what they are. Heaven was guiding you with precision throughout the whirlwind, which you will be able to see once it has passed. Joseph, for example, endured betrayal, imprisonment, and delay only to one day declare, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good." Genesis chapter 50, verse 20. You will make your own interpretation of those words. Allow your prayers to be quiet and focused. God is unresponsive to volume. He is moved by the truth. Please pray for the ability to discern. Please pray for tranquility. Please pray for the strength to comply, even if it is not emotionally rational. Remember that it is not your responsibility to administer justice. It has already started to unfold. So, you are not acting as the judge. You are safe. Keep a consistent daily routine. Clean the dishes. Take a stroll. Complete your assignment. These minor activities are not distractions. Anchors are exactly what they are. Routine stabilizes your nervous system and communicates with your spirit when everything else is uncertain. I'm unharmed. I'm being restrained. I continue to stand upright. In the same way that Jesus continued to share bread with his disciples on the night he was betrayed, there is power in the ordinary when the spiritual world is changing. Finally, drop the expectation of immediate comprehension. This is not your responsibility. Only after the dust has settled does some clarity emerge, and this is planned. God does not try to impress you by giving you a detailed explanation of the entire journey at once. He is establishing trust in you, and trust grows gradually. You are not giving up something significant. You are discarding that which is incapable of following you. The chaos you've been carrying cannot coexist with the holiness that lies ahead of you. Let go with reverence and not fear. You are not being penalized. You are being positioned, and one day you will look back on this unusual, peaceful, and sacred period and realize it was not the storm. This was the clearing. This was the point at which God made room for what you couldn't ask for. You have been quietly and faithfully praying for breakthrough, sometimes through tears that you were unable to express. However, you requested peace rather than vengeance. You requested clarity, not disorder. And now, unexpectedly, your response is arriving through exposure rather than ease. It is uncommon for breakthroughs to occur in the way that we expect. Sometimes it does not appear to be an open door. It appears that a door has been abruptly closed. Occasionally, the dissolution of something smaller serves as the catalyst for the creation of something larger. And now, heaven has begun the process of removing the barriers that have long hampered your calling. This is not just about arresting or removing an individual. The reasons for the removal are discussed below. You are not the target of retribution. You are experiencing liberation. The burden placed on your life by spiritual interference, spoken curses, and hidden manipulation is being lifted. Chains that you could never fully observe have been severed. Heaven said enough, and not because you fought harder. Every story has a moment when the turning point is caused by God's timing rather than the character's strength. Similar to Esther's entrance into the king's court, where she relied on the whisper of heaven despite her lack of awareness of the imminent danger. Moriah informed Esther, chapter 4, verse 14, that this moment could be hers. You were not dispatched to this location to give a thorough explanation. You have been assigned to observe the transformation of the person about whom you have been warned. He has a deeper connection to this story than you may be aware. Although he is not entirely blameless, he is not the only person who is burdened with guilt. The mask is now slipping off another figure, and heaven has witnessed the conversations behind closed doors, the staged narratives, and the carefully crafted lies whispered into the appropriate ears. The person who was not suspected. The woman cloaked herself in innocence, using her charm as a disguise and her pain as a form of entertainment. However, performance does not fool God. The Lord does not perceive in the same way that humans do. The Lord examines the heart, whereas man evaluates outward appearances. 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 7, and the heart eventually betrays itself when it is full of deceit. The extent of this woman's involvement in the unraveling is far greater than most people will admit. However, the preservation of false images is not a top priority in heaven. The truth is of interest to the celestial realm. In fact, there was a strategy based on both betrayal and spiritual manipulation. Someone was pulling the strings from behind the scenes, instilling control in conversations, fear in decisions, and guilt in relationships. What appeared to be loyalty was in fact entrenchment. What appeared to be assistance was in fact a trap. Unfortunately, that strategy is now unraveling. This is more than just a legal turning point. A spiritual alarm is going off in the unseen. The natural world is simply a reflection of the spiritual realm. Like Elisha's servant who panicked at the sight of enemy armies before his eyes were opened to the heavenly hosts surrounding them. Similarly, you are being given a vision to understand who is truly at work, rather than fearing the events that are unfolding, as seen in 2 Kings chapter 6, verse 17. Heaven has not allowed this delay in your life to be wasted. Your pace was slowed not to punish you, but rather to protect you. It is possible that you felt abandoned. However, the truth was that you were being concealed until the appropriate time. The person at the center of this disarray has made errors. He erred in judgment, but he was also the victim of a more sinister entity than first appears. And now, the fabrication that has been spread about him is being exposed. Not through lawyers or arguments, but through the light of heaven, which penetrates every false witness and destroys every poisoned root. And as this unfolds, it is critical that you remain grounded in reality rather than fear or opinions. Your soul knew something was wrong long before it was identified. You've seen shadows in places that others have deemed secure. You were overwhelmed by the weight of objects that had no name. Heaven has now confirmed that you were not imagining it. This moment, this unique sacred unraveling, is not chaotic. This is a correction. Restoring spiritual equilibrium is currently underway. The power that was once wielded in secret is now being eroded by public scrutiny. And you are being set free not only from a situation but also from a cycle. You are being freed from voices that have distorted your worth, relationships that have thrived on your silence, and systems that have profited from your uncertainty. This was not an arbitrary decision. You are not simply observing this. You were meant to be informed. You were meant to comprehend. Heaven's intervention is not intended to chill you, but rather to warn you. The upcoming event will call into question the assumptions of those who thought they knew what was going on, but it will also validate the beliefs that your spirit has quietly held. There is no need for concern because heaven has already built your escape, while others are only starting to notice the flaws. The scripture claims that you will understand the truth, and the truth will set you free. John, chapter 8, verse 32. This is the freedom that begins immediately. Something within you has been stirring for some time, long before the words were spoken or the situation became tense. Check. Disruptions in your dreams, tone shifts, words that were once warm suddenly becoming cold, repeated delays that made no logical sense, a heaviness in the air, and a shadow behind certain smiles. Yes, you did not dwell on your thoughts for too long. You were not imagining anything. Your spirit was discerning what your eyes could not yet confirm. What was previously hidden beneath the surface is now starting to show itself. The fabrications are becoming more difficult to believe. The pressure builds, and God removes the lid. At the center of this unraveling is a man who is not flawless, but rather marked, flawed, yet chosen. His tone has lowered. His pace has slowed. Something has changed in his environment, and it is not a coincidence. This man is the target of a spiritual pursuit, and the person who is carrying out the plot is hidden behind a false light. He's being framed, set up, and conspired against. She dresses with grace as if it were a costume. Instead of seeking God, she has learned to manipulate others by quoting scripture. She doesn't pray for surrender. She prays for the power to dominate. Heaven has observed every moment. The hollow laughter, the untrustworthy tears, the unsettling charm, and now the Most High is lifting the veil. What was previously obscure is now becoming clear, not as a result of your investigation, but because your role in this story is far more important than you initially realized. No, your presence here is not accidental. You're not reading this article out of curiosity. This is a divine interception. The Almighty has captured you in the middle of a scroll because heaven needs your awareness, intercession, and clarity. You are not watching a story unfold from an outside perspective. You are on the verge of a battle, and the conflict is not solely centered on this individual. It refers to the purpose, mantle, and mission that God bestowed upon him before the creation of the world, what he carries. However, when the enemy fails to steal the calling, he attempts to destroy the vessel. As a result, this person was assigned to imitate not only a woman, but also an affectionate assignment. Love was never her goal. Access was granted. Her kindness opened the doors to secrets. His confidence was built on her intimacy. She began constructing the trap as soon as she received the keys. This woman has created a performance that is intended to appear innocent, but is actually based on betrayal, similar to Delilah's strategy of luring Samson into a state of vulnerability only to deliver him to his enemies. Judges 16 tells the story of a man who lost strength after placing his head in the wrong lap. The adversary didn't need an army. He only needed a close friend. This man, like Samson, is currently at a crossroads. His silence had been deafening. His exhaustion has been obvious. However, God is not finished with him. He is not abandoned to destruction by heaven. Divine justice is advancing rapidly. Angels have been dispatched. Archangel Michael guards the gate. God is already dismantling the plan from within, while the enemy celebrates prematurely, believing that the trap is working. The woman at the center of the plot has rehearsed every scene. She can weep in public and curse in private. She has the ability to be humble while also pursuing control. She pays for her silence. Bribery is used to ensure her loyalty. She uses verses to conceal her hostility. However, heaven has decided that it is sufficient. Woe to those who mistake darkness for light, light for darkness, and evil for good. She used sacred language to conceal unholy intentions in Isaiah chapter 5, verse 20. However, the holiness of God cannot be used as a prop. He is in the process of removing his disguise. This disclosure is not intended to be embarrassing. What's at stake is justice. This is divine judgment. The truth is being revealed not only to impose punishment, but also to protect what is sacred. God isn't just refuting the fabrications. He is paving the way for a path of healing, restoration, and exceeding all expectations. And you are a part of that plan, whether through your silence, presence, truth, or prayers. You act as a container for this moment. You already have insight. Light is in your possession. You have discernment. Your role is more important than you may realize. Avoid second-guessing the unease you felt in her presence. Do not disregard the tension that your spirit senses. Heaven's whisper was that. That was the divine alarm that rang softly within you. And what was once silent is becoming increasingly audible. What was previously hidden is now revealed. Nothing is hidden that will not be revealed, or concealed that will not be disclosed. Matt, chapter 10, verse 26. The woman who stood so confidently will falter as the truth becomes clear. Her alliances will be terminated. Her fabricated favor will become obsolete. Her own exposure will be aided by the stage she set for his demise. Lies were the foundation on which she built her authority. Furthermore, manipulation is not celebrated in heaven. It confers blessings on the truth. However, understand this. Darkness opposes the ascendance of truth. Resistance is frequently expressed as confusion, backlash, whisper campaigns, and sudden cold shoulders. However, remain steadfast. Allow your prayers to ascend as incense. Sharpen your discernment as a sword. You are safe. You are safe. You're not alone. Fear is not the sensation that arises in your chest. It is an acknowledgement. Your soul is aware of the events that are occurring. Your spirit knows how valuable this hour is. This alignment was meant for you since the beginning of your life. You were chosen for this unraveling. And, while the world may proclaim its verdicts, you are already aware of God's words. This is the hour for spiritual correction, divine realignment, and exposure. Additionally, God is using you as part of His response. Do not be concerned about the events that are unfolding. Do not accept the validity of every tear you see. Pain is not always unadulterated. Not all brokenness is honest. Furthermore, not every accusation is justified. Occasionally, the victim acts as the enemy's most dangerous disguise. However, the Lord is not deaf. Furthermore, He is currently acting in a manner that is both quick and clear, as well as morally sound. You will see the lies crumble one by one, day by day, as the scroll of truth begins to unfold. And when the dust settles, you'll see that this wasn't just a storm. It was a rescue. It's not too late to seek God. He never was. And despite the unusual and urgent nature of the situation, this moment is exactly on time. Heaven has not remained silent. Despite the apparent silence, God's throne has been far from inactive, hidden behind the veil of your daily life. Movements have been occurring quietly, precisely, and divinely. Angels have passed through your life, unseen but ever present. They stood at thresholds you weren't aware you were approaching. They turned the tide in your favor when it looked like everything was against you. The time for exposure has arrived, not to destroy, but to deliver. Your spirit already recognizes that something is changing. You sense the tension in the air, the pressure that exists without reason. You've noticed the conversations that ended when you arrived, as well as the glances that lingered for far too long. You have borne the weight of invisible warfare. And now, heaven is speaking clearly. It wasn't a product of your imagination. A man who was once a trusted member of your circle and had a gentle demeanor has been on a path of deception. Not all serpents can slither. Some people speak with a low voice. This person smiled with one face while concealing the other. He has sacrificed his integrity in order to gain an advantage. He believed that shadows could obscure what the heavens could clearly see. However, the Lord, who never sleeps, has seen each step because His eyes are fixed on humanity's paths, and He perceives each one. And now justice is in motion, not the justice of men alone, but that of the Almighty. Job chapter 34, verse 21. The gavel has fallen in heaven's court, not out of anger, but out of righteousness, not out of wrath, but to protect you. Conflicting emotions may emerge. This is a common occurrence when the heart has known someone in whom the spirit cannot fully trust. Even when the truth reveals a pattern, love often sees potential. However, God does not expect you to understand everything at once. He is imploring you to have faith in Him as He destroys what was never meant to be. Reports, testimonies, and whispers from hidden places are being revealed behind the scenes. Everything is under the watchful eye of God. He's revealing the truth. The words spoken in secret will reverberate in the regions where truth reigns supreme. The mask has been removed, and the reality beneath it is unmistakable. You may be wondering why it took so long and why God didn't act sooner. However, divine timing is never late or early. The vision is not yet ready for its designated time. Despite the fact that it is tar, it will almost certainly arrive.
I extend a warm welcome to all who have been selected. You have returned to us once more, guided by the light. I'm carrying a message that is both urgent and sacred today, and it's not for everyone. This video will make you uncomfortable if your heart is not in tune with truth, obedience, and spiritual discipline, or if you are not on the divine path. If you are a genuine follower or one of the chosen, you may feel restless and challenged. However, it is critical to recognize that this message arrived at the exact moment that heaven intended, not a day early or late, but right on time. God has issued a severe warning for 2026. Certain aspects of your life, calling, plans, and spiritual experiences should never be revealed casually. Not even to people who claim to love you deeply, not to family members who think they know you best, or to friends who seem to be supportive. Premature disclosure of information may result in its delay, distortion, or destruction. Words are the medium by which the spiritual realm responds, and not all spirits send their best wishes. I require your continued presence until the end, as the information I am about to reveal has the potential to save years of your life. Many chosen ones have fallen, not because they were weak, but because they spoke when God instructed them to be silent. The enemy used their own words against them. They celebrated their calling before it took shape, and they shared their vision before it was established. Before we begin, if this video has already resonated deeply within your spirit, please take a moment to like it. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already done so. Tap the bell to ensure that you never miss a message intended for you, and comment 777 below to declare that you are in alignment with divine timing and ready to walk wisely into 2026. Now, that number is not arbitrary. It represents a spiritual indicator. Let it be your declaration for the day. First and foremost, I'd like to address your emotional state. If you've ever wondered why your life has been more difficult than others, why you've never quite fit in, or why your path appears delayed or misunderstood, this is why God has always worked in this way. He does not choose the voice that is the loudest in the room. He doesn't choose the most celebrated talent or the most proud heart. He chooses those who are disregarded by the rest of the world. He chooses those created in silence and refined in obscurity. Examine the consistent pattern found in the Bible. Moses lacked assurance. He asked about God on several occasions. He saw himself as inadequately prepared to carry out the divine assignment. Despite his immense power, Elijah experienced profound exhaustion and moments of despair. When the prophet came in search of a king, David was not even invited to the table. While his brothers were the focus of attention, his father ignored him. That's not an accident. That's a divine strategy. God keeps his most important instruments hidden in plain sight until the right time. And you, chosen one, were concealed for a reason. Not because you were overlooked, but because God was protecting the foundation that he was laying within you. God chooses unlikely vessels because pride is incapable of enduring the process he requires. You would rely on yourself if everything was simple, and success came without effort. However, God required you to put your complete trust in him. He required you to be aware of the sensation of brokenness in order to recognize genuine healing. He required you to face rejection in order to develop genuine compassion. He required you to traverse valleys so that you would never forget the person who helped you. You were not punished. Instead, you were molded. Every difficult season had a purpose. Closed doors provided protection. Each delay could be traced back to preparation. Nothing was wasted. Self-doubt is a common issue among many chosen individuals. And if this is the case, please hear me clearly. That uncertainty does not indicate vulnerability. It demonstrates that your heart remains open to learning. Arrogant people believe they are well prepared. Those who feel proud believe they have arrived. However, the chosen ones understand that they have not. This is precisely why God can believe in them. You doubt your own abilities because you are afraid of misrepresenting God. The fear is sacred. Being overlooked did not imply you were unqualified. It indicated that you were being protected. God refrained from exposing you prematurely because exposure without preparation has the potential to devastate people. While others were promoted, you were protected. You received your training in a private setting, whereas others were honored in public. You are beginning to understand why. Chosen individuals are frequently misunderstood because of their ability to notice details that others miss. You have consistently felt emotions that others have disregarded. While others perceived randomness, you saw patterns. You recognized the underlying intentions behind the superficial language. In places where others were at ease, you felt spiritually oppressed. Tasked. When you were younger, this awareness felt like a burden. However, it is a gift. God gave you spiritual sensitivity at a young age, anticipating that you would need it in the future. That sensitivity is why crowds sap your energy, noise exhausts you, and brief conversations feel burdensome. You're not antisocial. You have a high level of discernment. Your spirit filters far exceed what the majority of people can tolerate. And God was aware of it. This is why He instructed you in solitude. Being chosen does not imply that one is perfect. Moses fought against his rage. Elijah faced his apprehension. David made errors. God did not withdraw His call due to their humanity. I worked through it thoroughly. The calling is not prone to damage. It is founded on grace. You may have felt a distinct sensation since childhood. It's possible that you inquired about topics that others didn't find relevant. It's possible that you've had an attraction to spiritual subjects without knowing why. That attraction was not based on imagination. That was an acknowledgement. Your spirit was determining its origin before your mind could offer an explanation. Throughout their childhood, many chosen individuals feel excluded, even within their own families. They are not unloved, rather they are wired differently. Your values do not align with those of the majority. Your tolerance for injustice has diminished. Your desire for the truth is stronger. God placed you there to observe and learn, not assimilate. The chosen individuals are not raised to be seamlessly integrated into the existing systems. They face these systems as they grow up. This is why your primary instructor was never comfortable. You were pressured into following instructions. Silence instructed you. You learned through the process of waiting. God permitted lessons. Your role was not assigned to others, so they were not required to learn. During certain seasons, you felt abandoned. Periods when prayers appeared to go unanswered. Moments when you wondered if God had overlooked you. He refrained from doing so. While others learned to perform, He developed depth. You developed the ability to persevere. Additionally, endurance is extremely uncommon. Your challenging background did not disqualify you. It qualified you. You were not impeded by your difficulties. It was they who prepared you. You were not weakened by your isolation. You grew more acute. God was present. He acted with deliberate intent. You were never behind. You were aligned. I'd like to now explain the absolute necessity of silence in order to protect the growth that God is fostering within you. The enemy is not primarily concerned with what you already know. He is concerned about who you will become. He is concerned about the extent of your abilities. He is concerned about your complete commitment to your calling. One of the most efficient and effective ways to sabotage one's future is to announce it before the appropriate time. Every word you say about your vision, assignment, spiritual progress, and plans sends energy into the spiritual realm. Words are important. Words set the tone for the atmosphere. Words can open doors. Additionally, the majority of people are unaware of this fact. Not all spirits that listen are friendly. Your success is not supported by everyone who hears you. It endangers some people. There will be some who oppose it. Even if they smile at you, some people will actively oppose it. When you share too much too soon, you risk exposing your seed before it has developed strong roots. Consider a seed that has been planted in the soil. It is susceptible in its early stages. It requires safeguarding. It requires darkness. Before it can ascend to the surface, it needs to establish itself underground. Excavating the object prematurely for public display is detrimental to its preservation. You have disrupted the process. Spiritually speaking, the same is true. It will be judged by those who lack the spiritual maturity to understand God's work in you. They will criticize it. They will apply their limited perspective to your limitless calling. Individuals who perceive your expansion as a threat will resist it, sometimes without realizing why. They will express their uncertainty. They will emphasize potential hazards. They will serve as a reminder of your previous shortcomings. Even those who genuinely care about you may unintentionally speak against God's progress because they are unable to see what He does. Your faith is hampered by their limitations. Their anxiety interferes with your ability to concentrate. This is not about keeping secrets for the sake of it. This isn't about isolating yourself or becoming paranoid. This discussion focuses on strategic thinking. Silence protects what is still in the process of development. Silence protects what is not yet strong enough to face public scrutiny. Silence protects your assignment from premature opposition. Joseph is the quintessential biblical example of this principle. He erred by revealing his ambition to his brothers. His vision was realistic. His fate was unquestionable. However, his timing was completely off. He disclosed it before he was ready. He distributed it to those who were unprepared. And what happened? He was sold into slavery by his brothers. They were unable to manage his future. They were unable to honor his calling. His words were used as a tool for his downfall. Years of hardship ensued after the premature revelation. Joseph was imprisoned, abandoned, and falsely accused. He could have avoided all of this by simply waiting for the right moment. Nonetheless, God stood firm in the face of that traumatic experience. God used what the enemy intended for evil. However, the procedure was far more difficult than it needed to be. Occasionally, God gives you a vision that is not intended for public announcement, but rather to provide you with a sense of security during the difficult journey ahead. The goal of that dream, calling, and promise is to strengthen you in the face of external circumstances that seem to contradict everything He has told you. Its goal is to keep you grounded in the face of misunderstandings about your decisions. It is intended to help you keep your faith in the face of adversity, even when logic suggests giving up. It is fuel for your personal endurance, not content for your public platform. Wow. God occasionally gives you a vision that is not meant for public announcement, but rather to provide you with a sense of security during a difficult process. The purpose of that dream, calling, and promise is to strengthen you in the face of apparent opposition. It is designed to give you a sense of stability in the face of adversity. It is not social media content, but spiritual fuel. By refraining from discussing God's actions, you avoid unnecessary spiritual conflict. Your talent is developed without external interference. Your character develops free of the constraints of reputation management and performance. Your assignment proceeds without any unnecessary resistance from people who were never meant to understand it at this point. Silence is not an indicator of weakness. Silence contains the essence of wisdom. Silence is a powerful force. Currently, there are events in your spiritual life that others would misinterpret if you revealed them publicly. Religious people may struggle to accept unusual encounters with God. Externally, these transitions appear reckless or foolish. Convictions that appear radical to those who remain comfortable with traditional norms and practices. God's instructions are not yet logically coherent. Not everyone has the spiritual maturity or discernment required to respect God's work in their lives during these seasons. Take great care to protect it. It is intentionally safeguarded. Cover it until it is able to stand alone. It is my intention to pause at this point and say the following. If you are currently experiencing a profound resonance with this truth in your spirit and believe that this message is directly addressing a problem with which you have been struggling, please take a moment to share this video with another selected individual who needs it. I just remembered someone. Distribute it to them. Furthermore, if you have not yet left a comment, please do so by typing the number 777 into the space provided below. Let that be a marker for this moment. Occasionally, the discipline required for progress is strengthened by publicly revealing a private truth. Your comment may also serve as an inspiration to another person who is quietly observing and needs confirmation that they are not alone in this endeavor. I will give you 3 unmistakable, clear indications that you are a member of this lineage and are carrying this calling. Neither of these descriptions are vague. These are specific markers that you can identify in your own journey. The first indicator is that you have experienced extended periods of seemingly pointless waiting, not just brief delays or minor setbacks, but unbearable waiting. The act of waiting was completely illogical. The wait that tested your sanity and faith. A period of waiting that caused you to wonder if God had forgotten about you, if you had misunderstood his promises, or if you were never meant for the role you thought you were given. However, it is critical that you understand the following. The delay was not caused by your misconduct. The waiting was a prelude to the assignment to which you had been summoned. Moses endured a 40-year wait in the wilderness, where he was in charge of sheep care before embarking on his actual mission. For many people, 40 years is roughly half a lifetime. David was anointed king as a boy, but he did not wear the crown until he reached adulthood. Years have passed. Battles were fought. Betrayals occurred. He fled in fear for his life. He sought refuge in caves while carrying the promise of kingship. God intentionally extends time in order to develop your capacity. He discusses the process of waiting in order to develop the strength that will be sorely needed in the future. If you can bear the weight of the wait, you can handle the weight of what comes next. The wait is not wasted. Wait is beneficial to you, not detrimental. The second indicator is an unusual level of spiritual sensitivity, which appears to be lacking in those around you. Sensations arise before events occur. Before any words are spoken, you can notice changes in the atmosphere of a room. Individuals' underlying motivations can be ascertained through language. Even if it appears to be in perfect condition, you notice when something is wrong. You can detect spiritual environments that others go through without noticing. It can be overwhelming, especially for young people who have yet to develop the ability to manage their sensitivity. It may appear to be a curse. You absorb the emotions of an entire room of people. After spending time in large groups, you feel exhausted. You require time to recover from social interactions. You have consistently acted in this manner, and you most likely believed that there was a problem with your character. However, it is a gift. God gave you spiritual discernment, sensitivity, and spiritual radar to help you navigate the challenges ahead. The responsibilities you will be given will require you to be able to identify what others miss, detect what others ignore, and determine what others overlook. You do not have a paranoid personality. You are not being overly contemplative. You aren't overly sensitive. You have a keen sense of observation. You are using your discretion in matters of trust. That inner knowing has already saved you more times than you realize. It has kept you from having harmful relationships, making bad decisions, or being in dangerous situations. It is critical that you respect, nurture, and manage it responsibly. The third indicator is an increased preference for alignment over approval. There was a time when you were extremely